Alright, let's keep moving right along. Going to the next Robotech collectible card game deck unboxing and review. This time we're going to take a look at the SDF-1 starter deck. This is a full 50 card deck. It is not a 225 card deck like some of the other ones have been. Focus up a little bit for me there. You got Global on the front there. On the back it tells you that it is a 50 card SDF-1 deck. 30 commons, 15 uncommons, 5 rares, consistent across all the decks. It includes the introduction of the SDF-1 itself, the crew, passengers such as Henry Global, Lisa Hayes, Claudia Grant, Minmei herself. Also the first location card. We have seen a couple location cards in other decks because we're going a little bit out of order with some of these. But this is our last deck that's going to include anything that you could consider for like a Blue Squadron or Earth Forces deck. So getting right into this one. Our first extra card here is Daedalus Attack. It's a 4-cost action card. As an additional cost, advance your SDF-1. Send target opponent vessel to the discard pile. Now, vessels haven't been that big of a deal before in some of the other decks, but we're starting to get into some of the actual vessel-related decks. This will have some, as the SDF-1 itself is of course a vessel, and some of the Zentradi decks that we'll take a look at later will also have them. In the New Generation and Masters decks, there are a couple of vessels as well. So this is a decent card, actually. It is a later game card, which makes sense. That's a huge removal. To be able to take out a whole vessel with just one card is really, really strong. Homecoming. 3 costs. Search your deck for an Earth location, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. This is actually a pretty great card. Anything that will let you search your deck for a specific card is always good. This is turn 3, so it's not that late into the game, and I would definitely run this. I want you. 1 cost. You have to control Minmei. Search your deck for an Earth pilot card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, or shuffle your deck. As we get into looking at Minmei a little bit, this card this card's unique. It is kind of the exact same effect that Minmei herself's action is. So this card lets you play Minmei and then still get her action instead of just using the Minmei card as an action. But it's still pretty good. Again, being able to search your deck for a pilot is great. Anything that lets you find specific things is always good. Minmei sings. You have to have Minmei on the field. Earth pilots you control get +1 weapon and +1 armor for the turn. Thematic there. She sings through the microphone into space, and however you can hear in space, apparently. It messes with the Zentradi and makes all of the Earth forces stronger. 4-cost thing, again, makes sense. She'd have to be on the SDF-1 in the show, so that makes sense. But this is a pretty good card too. +1 weapon, +1 armor is good. It's a really late effect, and you have to have Minmei. I don't know that I'd run a ton of this, but it is a decent effect. Then we get into some of the actual stuff this deck is kind of built around. So Omnidirectional Barrier Overload, not Lord, sorry, 8 costs. You have to control the SDF-1. This can only be used at the start of the battle phase. Put X of your mechas into your discard pile. Your opponent puts X of their mechas into the discard pile. You flip X pilots down and put them into the protozone. Your opponent must flip down X of their pilots and put them into the protozone. This card literally just says, let's just start the board over again. I'm going to get rid of all my stuff. You're going to get rid of all your stuff. I'm going to put all my pilots face down in my energy. You're going to put all your pilots face down in your energy. And we're just going to start from the top. Makes sense. When this happens in the show, it's a big deal. But this is a hugely powerful card. 8 costs, as you can see, is you'd have to be real late in the game or playing some ramp strategy, which does exist. This is a tough card. This is cool. I think there may actually be some merit in that, in trying to force like a Invid and Earth Forces deck, because that Invid deck tries to ramp to get into the Antarctica base or whatever to you win the game if you have 8 energy. So if you tried to force some of those rampy cards into a blue deck, I think you might be able to get this to be something you could pull off pretty regularly. Omnidirectional Barrier System. 5 cost. You have to control the SDF-1. Can only be used at the start of the Declare Defender step. As an additional cost, discard 2 cards. Return all attackers to the base zone. As exactly what it says. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Your opponent has to pretty much skip their attack phase. It's a really good card. The shield stops all attackers from attacking it in the show. It stops everything from attacking you in the game. Rick Hunter Spacewalk. Your target Earth pilot in the battle zone can be moved to your battle area. Oh, sorry. Your target Earth pilot in the battle zone can be moved to pilot an unpiloted mecha in the battle zone. You're just jumping between mechs in space. This is a really strong card, actually. If the ship you were about to lose in a battle is gonna die, you can save Rick by putting him on a different ship. Or if you need a little bit more of a buff to finish a particularly pesky foe off, you could transfer Rick while in the battle from a different ship onto this one and give yourself a little bit more buff. SDF-1 Spacefold. Move your Earth unit from the battle zone to your base zone. This one is, again, it's another just kind of get out of jail free card. If your card's about to die, move it back to base. Also, this is a nice card as an action because you could play it after your opponent's proto phase, or like before or after their mechanized phase, before your battle phase, before their battle phase, because you could use this to bring one of your guys that is out to battle back and then have it as a defender for the turn. So this is a pretty good card. I like this card a lot. That's the end of our action cards. Getting into the actual pilots, you got Admiral Hayes, just a vanilla 2 cost, but he does search your deck for Lisa Hayes, put it in your hand. If you were to play him, he would probably more often than not be used as an action to fetch Lisa. She'll be a lot more important to the deck when we get farther into the stack here, but he's still not bad. Just a pilot to have in game, gives you an energy. But there's definitely better things to do than this guy. Claudia Grant, discard X cards. X target Earth unit get +1 speed. Use only once per turn. 0 cost. As an action, you can search during your mobilized phase. You can search your deck for Roy Fokker, reveal it, and put it into your hand. This is really good. Roy is powerful. He gives you some good buffs. It's nice to be able to grab him. A 0 cost means you can play this literally on turn 1. And then the discard X cards effect, while she's on the board, that she just sits here and can always have that effect once per turn. If you really need to speed up a unit or give multiple units speed to not be able to be blocked or to be able to block, then she's really good at that. She's a pretty decent just character, not a pilot, but a great character card. Emil Lang. 2 cost, flip face down and move to the protozone. Search your deck for an Earth Vessel card, reveal it, put it in your hand. If you are trying to build an SDF-1 deck, this guy's really important. You would play him as one of your energy. You flip him face down. He's still an energy, but you can no longer use his effect. But then he goes and gets the SDF-1 from your deck and helps you start that process. Also, you could search your deck for an Earth Vessel card, reveal it, put it in your hand, just as an action. Again, not a bad action, probably a better action than a character, to be honest. Henry Global, captain. Solo, you can only have one of him in play. I don't know why he says solo, to be honest. Because every one of these characters should be solo. Oh well. Henry Global, captain. 3 cost, solo. Action cards cost 1 proto point less to play. That's strong. All your action cards just cost 1 less. It essentially makes you do everything 1 turn earlier. Or you can search your deck for an Earth Officer card, reveal and put it in your hand and shuffle your deck. Kim Young, discard a card, your target Earth action. Effect that targets a mecha may target another mecha instead. Action that affects a mecha may target another mecha instead as the action as well. Great that it's the same effect both times. Really, this card is great if you use an effect on something and your opponent responds and you're like, oh well, actually I'm going to use this effect to move my answer so that it still does something. Lisa Hayes. 2 cost, solo, discard a character card, search your deck for an RDF action card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. Use only once per turn. Action RDF action cards cost 1 less proto point this turn. That's the blue logo up here. The Robotech Defense Force is really what it stands for. As an action, your cards cost 1 less this turn. That's also pretty big, but really her effect is just discard a character card, get an action from your deck. That can be really powerful, and if you've got a lot of these kind of throwaway characters in play, if you built a deck around that, this could be a pretty effective card. Minmei. This card is a common, and it baffles me that it's a common because it is astounding. Discard a card, target male Earth pilot cannot use its abilities this turn. That's a super good effect. But the action, search your deck for Rick Hunter, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. This is amazing. To be able to go grab the Rick Hunter that comes with the 2-player starter deck, so that you can put a Rick Hunter onto the Rick Hunter's Vf1d that also comes in the starter deck that board wipes your opponent as an action every turn, is phenomenal. 3 of this immediately. Pilot Skull Squadron, just a basic guy. You can have as many copies of this guy as you want. Believe it or not, the deck actually only includes 1 though. He is a Skull Squadron unit. Basic, this piloted mecha gets +1 weapon while group attacking, and he gives whatever he's on +1 armor. As an action, a target Skull Squadron unit gets +1 armor. We do have another Rick Hunter. If you wanted to go grab another Rick Hunter, if you were trying to build a deck around that Rick Hunter card, you probably would run both versions of Rick. Please focus for me there, thank you. He just gives +1 weapon, so he's not nearly as good as the other Rick, but still, just a turn 1 Rick Hunter is pretty good. The Earth unit gets +1 weapon. It's not a terrible action either. Roy Fokker, 3 cost. Skull Squadron, eject Roy Fokker. Piloted mecha cannot be destroyed this turn. +1 weapon, +1 armor, or your target Earth unit gets +2 armor. That's pretty good. If you're in battle and you're gonna lose a unit, you can eject him, which will make its stats a little lower, but it means that it can't be blown up this turn. Great effect. And ejecting him means you get to save him. He just goes back into your base area. Sammy Porter, 0 cost, Earth Officer. Turn face down and move to the Protozone. Search your deck for an Earth Mecha, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Again, you could pair this really well with the Rick Hunter's Vf1d. So you'd run Minmei's, you would run this, you would run the Rick Hunter's, his Vf1d, and you'd have a pretty effective fetch engine for that package. Vanessa Weeds, send Vanessa to the discard, return an Earth action card to your discard pile, and put it in your Protozone face up. Here you go. Here's your 0 cost ramp card. You send her to the discard pile, get an action from your discard pile, and put it into your energy. A little bit of ramp. Alaska Base. 7 cost, location, requirement, you have to control Admiral Hayes. So it's unfortunate that you'd have to have Admiral Hayes, as he was the vanilla we were talking about, but if you do have him, this is a 20 health base. It's pretty beefy. You can flip this face down and move to the Protozone, so you just put it in your energy. Discard X cards. Target opponent must send X of their units to the discard pile. This can only be played at the start of the battle phase, or target unit can't advance this turn. Not a great action effect, but essentially discard your hand to board wipe your opponent. That's really strong. Especially in a game where you draw 3 cards a turn. You still wouldn't be that far behind. Macross Island, another location, 20 health as well. Discard a card, search your deck for an Earth civilian card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. This would be a good location to kind of start the game as well. If you're trying to build a deck around Rick Hunter and his ship, you could play this. You could play those Minmei and that other pilot there. Not Vanessa, Sammy. You could play Minmei and Sammy, both civilians. Or both, I guess they're not civilians, my fault. Oh, Minmei's a civilian. She's an officer. So you could grab Minmei, which would grab you Rick. And then all you'd have to do is you just have to find your Sammy to get his ship. But again, you're just building ways to dig through your deck in a more efficient fashion. This would be a really good card. The Defender Destroid, 1 cost, 1/2/1, burst. So it does have trample if you're using magic terms, but it with that low of attack, the burst is probably not going to be incredibly relevant. But it's possible, especially if you buff it up high enough. When it attacks, your other attacking units get +1 armor. So this just makes your guys harder to beat while you're on the offensive. That's good. The Destroid Monster, 4 cost, 5/2/0 burst. This is a lot beefier guy and works a lot better for the whole trample concept. Destroid Monster Vessel, 4/2/0 burst. This unit gets +1 weapon for each vessel you control. If you're building a deck around vessels, this would be a great option to have on board. 4 attack with burst is huge. Means that anytime your opponent tries to chump, they're still going to take. You're still going to win battle points. That's awesome. This card's fantastic. Destroid Phalanx, 2/3/2/0 burst vanilla. Again, burst with 3 is not bad, especially for 2. And one of your land-only Earth units gets +2 weapon. That's pretty strong too. You do have to be careful. This is land-only, so you can't defend with it against a space unit. But still not a bad attacker. Destroid Phalanx Vessel, 2/3/0 burst. This gets +1 weapon for each vessel you control. Again, if you're building a vessel-based deck, you'd probably want to run this along with the other one. And then target Earth vessel gets +2 weapon. That just makes your vessels even stronger. Vessels being strong is incredibly important since they only attack other vessels, and some players just never run them at all. So it wouldn't be incredibly important to be able to do that, but if they did have vessels, it would be a nice way to try to eke some value out of that. Destroid Spartan Armor, basic burst. You can have as many copies of this guy as you want, as you can tell by the 9 of them in the picture. 2 cost, 2/2/1. Target Destroid gets +2 armor. This is a decent little action as well. Good little common grunt unit. Destroid Spartan, slightly different version, not the basic version. 2/3/1, slightly better stats than this one, 2/2/1. This one does have burst, but doesn't have the ability to have multiple copies of it. You can have up to 3. Destroid Tomahawk, 3/4/2/0. Burst, again, just more of the same. Burst vanilla, guys. Not bad. There's definitely something to be built kind of around this, but it's not nearly as flashy as some of the other stuff, and I don't think it would hold up incredibly well, especially being land only. Space only. Ghost Fighter. 1/1/2. Unpiloted. A pilot cannot attach to this mecha, so this is like a automated vessel. Not vessel. Automated fighter. As an advance, your target Earth unit gets +1 armor this attack, so you just move it up into the battle area, and one of your units gets +1 armor. Not a bad effect. Not a great little unit. Definitely makes sense that this is a common. And then as an action, an Earth unit gets +1 armor. Still not bad. And it's nice that you don't have to pilot it to do anything cool. You just never put anything on it. You just throw it up there and it's okay. It is 2 speed, so that's decently fast, which means it can get in front of a couple of things for blocking. But I don't know if it's great. Lancer Space Drone Vessel. This is a fighter as well. It's actually the drone that's barely in the picture. It is a 1 cost, 1/1/2. Can't be piloted. It gets +1 armor for each vessel you control. This, again, if you were trying to build a deck built around the vessels themselves, then you'd want to run these with the Destroids. That's just getting a little redundant as far as explaining that, but you get the point. Run the vessel cards with the vessel cards. Lancer Space Drone. This card's actually pretty cool. 1 cost, 1/1/2, space only. Target Earth unit gets +1 weapon, but This is basic, so you can have as many copies of it as you'd like. Restriction, it can't be piloted. Advanced, target weapon, or target Earth unit gets +1 weapon. So it's like the last one that gave you +1 armor. This one gives you +1 weapon. They're kind of the opposite of each other. Do you want more attack or more defense? If I were trying to, for me, if I were trying to do like kind of a weenies-based aggro ships kind of deck, I would definitely want to run these with more attack. Although, if you were trying to build a deck with the with the Rick Hunter package that we've been talking about along the way here, the Ghost Hunter wouldn't actually be bad, because it would give you more defense to keep you safer while you advance him. So that he wouldn't be awful, but this one I think would be better for a deck that wants to focus on attacks at all. And most of the time I'd pick this deck, or this card. Vf1a ammo shortage, 2 copies of this. This one's our first Veritech in the deck. It is a 2/2/2/131/3/1/2. While this mecha is in the battle zone, both players can only draw 2 cards during the refuel step. So while this card's in play, you draw 2 instead of 3. It hurts both players, but again, hurts both players. Both players only draw 2 cards during their turn. Use this before, only during the refuel step. So as an action, you could just pitch this to say, okay, this turn we're both going to draw 2. This guy's not bad. If you wanted to get a little bit of, suffrage on your opponent, this would be a cool card. Would be a weird card to play in a deck where you're also discarding your hand to do stuff, but still, he's a pretty cool unit. Vf1d Rescuer, 2 copies of this. 1 cost, 1/1/2/120/202. Pretty basic 1 cost unit stats. Does have transform. If you advance this unit and destroy it, you can turn a target face down character in your protozone face up. This is huge because it lets you use their action again. So if you've got, anyway, if we put Vanessa, or if we put Minmei in the actions and we use her or something like that, then we can still get that effect again. Any of those pilot effects earlier that made us flip it down and move it to the protozone, we can flip them up and use that action again. So this is a pretty cool card. Vf1d Tandem. This unit may be piloted by 2 pilots. 1 cost, 1/1/2/120/202. Again, your regular 1 cost Veritech stats. But giving it 2 pilots, that could be really interesting, honestly. You could really make this a beefy fighter if you invested 2 pilots into it. Granted, that'd be a huge loss if they both died, but still, this would be this could be really sneaky. Vf1j Guardian Transformer, 2 copies of this. This unit may transform to Guardian mode at any time. 3 cost, 3/3/2/4/1/4/2/2. So this is a nice guy where what I would do with this guy is I would send him up in fighter mode as a 4 attacker with 2 defense. If it's not going to be blocked, then it's 4 damage, or 4 points for yourself. If they are going to block it, then you just flip it to Guardian mode. It doesn't have great attack, but it's got 4 defense, and it becomes immediately harder to kill. So it's just a very good, versatile unit. I would absolutely run 3 copies of this guy. The Vf1s. This is 3 cost, 2/3/1/140, 3/2/2 vanilla. Target attacking unit gets +2 weapon. This isn't a bad card. It's a little bit overstated for a 3 cost, which is nice, but being a vanilla, there's better options. Which is a shame, because the Vf1s is awesome. And the Vf1s Skull Leader, 4 cost, 3/3/2/241/4/2/3. Transform solo. While Vf1s Skull Leader is attacking, all your other units get +1 armor. Again, he just keeps your guys more alive while he's attacking. Really good too. Use up to 2 of your target Earth unit. Up to 2 of your target Earth unit gets +2 armor while attacking this turn. A good action even if he isn't in play. And then the Vf1s Skull Leader Booster. This is like the Max and Mariah version of the Skull Leader card, but from their deck, the Blue Squadron one. 3/3/2/131/3/1/2. Decent stats for a 4 cost. It cannot intercept, which means you can't really use it to defend against direct attack or against unit attacks, but it can't be destroyed while defending against a unit with a higher proto cost. So you can't use this guy to block when a unit is attacking another unit, but if a unit is attacking you as a player, this is an incredible blocker. He can't die on defense. So just phenomenal there. You would always send him up as a 3/3/2, or even a 3/1/2 if you wanted. He can't die. But as long as he's fighting something with more cost than him, then he can't die. Granted, he is a 4 cost, so there's not a lot that's going to be higher than him, but if your opponent's got some big guys, this guy is just going to sit in front of him and tell him no. Awesome card. Armed 1, 8/12/1. You could have to control an Earth vessel or an Earth officer to play this. Advance at the end of a battle phase. Gain 1 battle point for every 2 Lance or space drones in the battle zone you control. So now we're starting to get into an idea for a deck. And so you run some of these. You're running off the Earth officer that fetches a vessel from your deck. And then you move this up to battle. It's got 8 attack, 12 defense, which means it's going to be hard to kill while it's up there. And at the end of the battle phase, you get a point for every 2 Lancer drones that you have in play. And those are basic, so you just run as many of them as you want. You could build a whole deck around having just those guys in this, and try to cheese your opponent out of wins that way. Probably wouldn't be great, but at least it's an alternate win, and that's pretty cool. Oberth class destroyer, 3 cost, 10/8/1. Control an Earth officer, may intercept any attack on your Earth vessel. Really good. Essentially, it says it doesn't care what the speed is, it can intercept anything. Pretty powerful card. And then we got 2 SDF-1 cards here. The SDF-1 barrier, 20/21. You have to control an Earth officer. Advance this, block up to 3 target attackers with 2 weapon or less. That's good. Your opponent's going to try to go wide with some smaller guys. You just send this up and say no. And that's pretty powerful. As an additional cost, you can discard an RDF card, block up to 3 attackers with 2 weapon or less. As an action, even if you don't want to play this guy out, you could just pitch it. You'd have to discard another card, but you could still at least block a couple of guys. And then SDF-1 main cannon. 2 cost, 20/21. You control an Earth officer. Send target proto card into your discard pile. So 1 of your energy, send it to your discard pile. Target opponent must send a vessel they control to their discard pile. This card is really, really strong if your opponent is playing vessels. Again, this would be a super cool card if side decks were a thing. If your opponent was a vessel-based deck, you just side some of these in and punish the hell out of them for it. But as an additional cost, send a target proto card to your discard pile. Target opponent must send a vessel they control, so it's literally the exact same effect. But as a vessel, 20/21 is easily some of the biggest stats that exist, if not the biggest stats that exist for vessels. So this is going to be around for a long time. 2 costs is really low, so you can get it out early. And anytime your opponent plays a vessel, you can just set yourself back a turn to board wipe it. That's really, really strong. That's the SDF-1 starter deck. As you can see, there is a lot going on in it. A lot of pilots that do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of pilots in this deck. A lot of little vanilla Destroids. But there's definitely some strategies to this one. I don't know how competitive in like a fully constructed environment a full-fledged SDF-1 deck would be, but it would at least be interesting. That being said, me personally, I'm going to scrap a ton of cards in this. Just grab the Minmei, the Sammy, the Rick, and just go to town building an incredible Rick Hunter deck. I'm really, really excited to build that. Until next time, we've got a few more of the decks to go over here. Coming up next, we've got the Robotech Masters deck, and then we've got a couple Zentradi decks to look at, and then finally we'll look at the beta deck from before the game was even officially released, and then we'll be all the way through, and then we'll start looking at maybe building some decks and seeing what we can come up with as far as like an actual deck profile. All right, well, until next time, guys. Thanks for hanging out.